I used to really believe that Black men were really responsible for upholding colorism and texturism, but the older I get and the more I just observe trends and conversations and patterns, I think many of us are unwilling to acknowledge the way Black women also perpetuate these same ideas. Like, even if I think of the online space, I don't really see Black male channels out there complaining about texturism or Featurism or really even colorism. They have their challenges, but they're not hyper focused on it. But it's really women, and it's particularly, dark-skinned, unambiguous, monoracial women that I see constantly going at it with the quote-unquote exoticals or the biracials. And quite frankly, it just seems like a continuation of the drama that we would see at school when it was, the pretty girl or a girl who might be considered light-skinned or the mixed girl or whatever, who might get more attention from guys, or it seemed like she was treated more favorably and she may get into it with a darker skinned woman, or even if there was a girl who was darker skinned but she had long pretty hair, she would be bullied. And it just seems like the same continuation of issues that we would sometimes see even in grade school. And what it's telling me is that, yes, a lot of these issues I think were pushed on us, but I think some of us are still perpetuating it because we haven't really been able to sit with the way we've come into agreement and started to believe some of those lies. And some of us honestly believe that if we were lighter, we'd be prettier. If our hair was a particular way, we would look better. If our nose was smaller, or our lips was this, or if we appeared more European or less African, or whatever it may be, like those ideas that some of us really have internally that maybe we haven't really actually acknowledged, but it can come out in the way that we treat ourselves, or quite frankly, the way we treat others. And when I see the beef that goes on sometimes that's unnecessary between lighter skin or dark skin, or these conversations online around these topics, I'm just like, this isn't coming from Black men. This is really coming from Black women. And of course, I'm sure there are Black men out there who are, I'm sure, colorists and have their own self-hating ideas. I'm not denying that. But I'm saying, I think there's just been really an unwillingness to identify how much women actually perpetuated themselves. And again, this is truly no judgment, because I understand that a lot of this is the impact of just unprocessed trauma, because the Black community has had significant challenges since day one in America. So again, this really is not a judgment, but it's more of just, I think, recognizing what have been the impacts of long-term systematic racism or colonization, or basically you being told that you're not good enough. What has been the impact of that on Black women and their sense of self and their identity? And so that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I think, the sooner we can actually acknowledge if maybe some of that residue is still there, or some of that is being actively perpetuated, then the easier it is to move into conversations that actually might, bring us towards healing and bring us towards acceptance of who God created us to be. Continuing this conversation about colorism, I wanted to get your guys' feedback on this whole topic. Because while colorism, features, and texturism is a conversation that I hear being primarily dominated and ran by Black women, I do think it's something that actually impacts Black men. And so oftentimes what I'll do, I may pose a question or make a statement, and then I will ask people to tell me whether or not they agree with the statement or if they disagree with the statement. Why do they agree? Why do they disagree? Why am I wrong? And so I wanted to go over some of your guys' feedback just regarding this whole idea of colorism, who perpetuates it, and ultimately when it comes to dating, mating, reproducing, who ultimately is maintaining colorism, and whereas who ultimately is willing to let it go. And so I want to look at some of your guys' different feedback, so it's going to help me understand, what are people actually thinking today? So this one right here, it says, Black men and Black women are equally as desperate for whiteness as the other, especially when it comes to dating. Both act like they hit the lottery by dating someone white. So this person is saying, this is not something that just impacts one gender, men or women. This impacts both. And to be honest, I personally know in my own experience of men, Black men and Black women, who very much have been desperate for whiteness. I've seen it. And so I do certainly agree that this is something that impacts the entire community, because the current system, anti-Blackness, impacted the entire Black community. And so how that shows up might look differently among men and women. And now, to what level, to what degree, that is all up for debate, but I do think he makes a really good point. Another one here, it says, just agree. This person, I guess, agrees with what it is that I have to say. This one says, social media ain't life. It glorifies 1% and makes the 99 look mundane. But in reality, we can see who is married to whom. We're all affected by systemic whiteness. That trauma doesn't fall down gender lines. So again, what I said before, look, we're all impacted. Both men and women have been impacted by this. This is not something that is just targeting one particular group. And so it's important when you're having these conversations about isms in the community to really understand the way that it has been targeted or used across board and how it may show up among men and women. This one here, it says, agree. Black men will always choose to date to marry a Black woman over any other race. The reason why we are choosing to date outside our race is because the women have gone bad. Okay, so this person is saying, actually, Black men in general tend to be a little more race loyal. They tend to actually prefer darker skin, melanin, whatever. It's just now men who are either going abroad or dating outside of the race do so because they feel they have no other option, right? So that's his point of view. Now enter the SYSBM crowd, now enter the passport bros. But this would not be the first time that I have heard something like this. Another one here, it says, agree. This person agrees. This one says, okay, disagree. Black women are more influenced by sisterhood, lesbian engagement, fictional approval, secretly competing against each other. Men are walking closer to God and they are not. God has given men the vision to see past looks, booty, and victimization. White men are given compliments and materialistic items until he also sees she just plays a role for validation. So this comment right here believes that men are drawing closer to God, whereas women are embracing secularism. There is something to be said about when men walk away and when men basically are either not allowed to be who they are meant to be, whether it be in their family or society, or where they completely lose interest, society falls apart. So in that vantage point, if men are walking away, whether it's they're leaving the country, whether it's they're completely just saying, I want nothing to do with families anymore, like if men aren't actually operating within that capacity, society will falter, families will fall apart because of who men strategically are, because of who God actually created men to be. And the worst thing that we can do, the worst thing that women can do, I think, is actually hinder men from being who they're supposed to be in their lives and in society. And from that vantage point, yes, you do see society faltering, you do see society breaking down once that happens. This is why I do not believe that there is parity between men and women. I believe there's equal value between men and women. I believe there's certainly equal value. And I believe that there should be honor and respect for men and women, but I do not believe we have the same roles because God did not create us the same. Even those of you guys who are familiar with the biblical story, right? For Adam and Eve, right? Where Eve sinned, she went and ate some fruit that God told her not to do. And when God came to bring correction to Adam and Eve, he went straight to the man and he said, what's going on with Eve? He went straight to the man. He did not go to Eve first. He went straight to the man, and he had to correct the man first because the man was the one who was responsible for actually teaching Eve, right? He was the one responsible for actually protecting her and basically being on watch. Like that was his role. That's who God created Adam to be in that scenario. And so he fell off the post and he fell off the post. Everybody fell off the post and society suffered, right? And so like that, I know that story is very much a reflection of the role that men and women have. It is not the same. It is, I do not believe it's the same. Some may say that that's unfair. Some may say, that's not the parity. That's fine. I'm like, talk to God about it. I didn't create the rules. But I'm just saying that comment is so interesting because he's like, look, women are doing this, men are doing this, and the result is that. And that's kind of the point. Like if men get to where they're operating their own sector and women are operating their own sector, eventually society falls apart because they are actually meant to operate together. And by the way, men have such a crucial role in society. And when they are not allowed to be who they are meant to be, and they're not really being who they are supposed to be in that capacity, women suffer, men suffer, society suffers because of the crucial role that they play. So that's why I think there needs to be that respect there. And really understanding each other's role. This one says, I'm Black, light skin complexion. So Black women said Black during the 90s as light-skinned Negroes was played out. So basically my entire marriage eligible years was spent on dating non-American Black women or Afro-Latinas, get where you fit in. So no opinion. Very, 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 very interesting. Man, that's funny because like I remember when I was coming up, like light skin was in. Like, well, I know for the women especially. I remember there being a lot of Black and Filipino girls in my school. So it's like the mixed chicks were in, and same with like the mixed guys, like they got a lot of play too. But then at a certain point, like dark skin became the thing. And I can't even really think of when, but I just remember like in my own life being, at one point I was like really attracted. I was always attracted to Black guys, but I remember being like really attracted to like lighter skinned Black guys. And then at some point it became dark skin. And I can't even really think of, honestly, I can't even think of the timing. But that's super interesting. It's super interesting that he said that. Anyways, guys, those are just a few comments. Some agree, some disagree, but I'm curious, what do you think? What do you think about this entire topic about surrounding colorism, Featurism, Texturism? I mean, is it played out? Do you think it's super played out? Do you think it is incredibly relevant today? Are women the ones who are perpetuating it? Are men? Is it both? Does it matter? Does it not matter? I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about this. Be sure to leave your questions or comments down in the comment section. Thank you so much for listening if you have gotten this far, and we'll talk later. Bye.